All right, so welcome, guys. On today's episode on TopBase, we have a very amazing guest. This is Oliver Kempkens. And before we start the discussion, I would simply love him to do a bit of introduction about himself.
Sure. Thank you very much, Donovan, for having me. Yeah, Oliver Kempkens, my name. Interestingly, we know each other from Moscow, right, Donovan? So I was, until February, I was the chief product owner at the Russian bank Sberbank, which is one of the leading, not just banks, I would say, in Europe. It was one of the most successful banks in Europe, but it was for sure one of the most innovative banks in the world.
Mhm.
We have thousands, or we had thousands of developers in the organization. I was responsible to build an HR platform similar to SuccessFactors, similar to Oracle, PeopleSoft, or Personio in Europe, to
Mhm.
serve on the Russian market, right? With the aim to track transformation and to develop people.
Wow, that's really amazing. And one most interesting question I was thinking was, how did you find yourself in the Russian sphere? Because you speak very good English, and very few Russian managers or people that are working in the management sphere can be able to speak quite good English as you can.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is true. I would say I have a longer relationship to Russia, almost 20
Mm.
years, right? And it technically all started with a girlfriend I had in Munich, right? She was
Mm.
Russian. And I think like she opened a little bit like the mindset for me to the Russian market.
Mhm.
And I lived in America for a couple of years in San Francisco, well, in the south of San Francisco, in Palo Alto. It's better
Mhm.
known technically. Menlo Park is known because Facebook is over there, and Palo Alto is the city where Stanford University is located. And I was working for SAP
Mhm.
there. And then, when I moved back to Europe, I was also teaching as a lecturer at the Stanford University. And when
Yeah.
I came back to Europe, Skolkovo reached out to me, asking me whether I could imagine to teach at the Skolkovo School of Management, design thinking, innovation management,
Mm.
leadership. And that's what I started to do, right? And then after the years, I had an opportunity to work with Sberbank, and then
Wow.
I took the opportunity.
Wow, that's really amazing. So you have mentioned a very interesting topic, which is something that I've seen has been one of the great scope of your works, which is design thinking.
Yeah.
And I would like you to tell us more about design thinking. What does it really involve, and its impact in the business society, in the business world?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it sounds so easy, but it's not so easy to answer. I think the idea behind design thinking is twofold. On the
Mm-hmm.
one hand, the idea is that everyone can learn to be innovative by getting away or teaching people a way how to understand a customer. I
Mm-hmm.
think this is a very powerful development which we have seen in the last 15 years, which is called technically user centricity. And
Mm-hmm.
design thinking is a quite procedural, it's a structured approach on how you can develop empathy and
Mm-hmm.
a deep understanding for your customers. And design thinking helps you, in a step-by-step process to go through something which is called like product discovery, trying to understand what is the need someone had, then develop a product which may work, and
Mm-hmm.
then an iterative approach on how you can test whether your idea, your assumption is right, what you understood from a client.
Wow.
And coming to the second part of your question, I think um, from a business perspective, it
Mm-hmm.
is like widely adopted. Not all
Mm-hmm.
businesses call it potentially design thinking. They call it user experience. They call it user centricity. They are saying, well, we are using lean technologies or agile technologies. But all of these approaches, which I just named, are technically meant to find a structured approach how
Yeah.
to understand and serve a customer, and to
Mm-hmm.
reduce the business risk that an idea is failing on the market by constant interaction with your client to make a better product.
Wow, that really makes a lot of sense. So in short, you are saying design thinking is the benchmark or the other term which we can use to describe customer-centric business.
I think you can. And when you're talking about benchmark, benchmark is a big thing, but design thinking is a branded approach how you can do this. And with this, for sure, it's a benchmark. Yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing. So what's like, for instance, you have said you first take the customer approach. There are people who first bring out products, then anticipate that people will buy those products. But according to what you have said, is first taking the customer approach and using it to determine the product for the customers.
Yeah.
And does that affect marketing as we know it now, or has it was?
I mean, look, marketing means technically, if you look in the definition of marketing, it's like you're finding means on how you can sell your product effectively, right? I think design thinking is an approach which can be applied early on in the process. For example, you can be any company, right? Let's take any sports company like Nike or sports fashion company. They're saying, hey, look, a new trend sport is Pilates. For example, Pilates, right? Let's develop a product line for people who are doing Pilates. So what would that mean? Well, that would mean that you're reaching out to people who are doing Pilates and talking to them, observing what they are doing, how they're doing it, where does, for example, clothes need to soak sweat, where do you need more elasticity? Are the people usually are they slim, are they skinny, is it more like something which you also like to look good in or not? Because boxing for sure is something you don't need to look good in, right? You're sweating, but Pilates is more a thing like, are you doing it alone? Are you doing it in a group? So all of these aspects, like when you want to start to develop a new product, this can be technically be done in a design thinking fashion.
So you really mentioned something interesting about art being also part of design thinking, about it also being in like creativity and making things work as they should be. But many people want to copy an idea and implement it. But in a world that's so vast, so big, with a lot of ideas being brought on board, how do you think, with your vast experience, you can have ideas that are sustainable? So someone else might be doing the same thing you are doing in another country. You don't know about that. So how do you keep up and become relevant?
Well, difficult question also, right? It's let me try to get close to it, to my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how the question whether you want to be relevant, it's a little bit the question how you define relevance, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Only because you have the ambition to do something big for the world, for mankind. A lot of people are saying that, but some people, they have big plans, but they will never manage to do. So I think always, relevance shows it. I mean, if you're relevant, it is shown especially in your circle, in your family, among your friends, among your neighborhood, potentially, but this is my opinion, right? I would always say dreaming is good, but I mean, never forget that the relevance is especially experienced by the people which are around you. So that is, I think, for me important. This is my daughter, my son, right? My girlfriend, my wife, etc. Right? These things are making me relevant because it's like a resonance, right? People will only tell Oliver Donovan are relevant if they feel it. They will not say it because I'm on the first page of a new, I think a lot of people would say Donald Trump is not relevant, but he's public. He's a public figure, right? But I also know that a lot of people are saying, hey, he is very relevant. So it depends a little bit on the resonance where you're playing in. How to keep up with things? Well, you're very right also. They are obviously, I'm German. I lived in America. I lived in Russia. I don't know a lot of things about China. I have a quite blind spot about all the great Islamic countries. And I also have a blind spot about a lot of things which are happening in Africa, I have to say, right? I think curiosity is an important point. Being open to things, don't take yourself too serious, even if you have achieved something, I mean, look, success is always defined by zeitgeist. You've been the right person at the right place. Yeah. It's the right of the birth, right? You're born in the right environment. So I think to be a little bit like, I would say, I don't know how to say in English, but, a little bit like, not laid back, but to be respectful to a situation where you have developed something and trying to understand that other people don't have the opportunity. Yeah.
Wow.
That is, I think, something that is, how I think about relevance and how I think about success. So for me, I think success is something, if my daughter is expressing that she loves me, that is something which makes me happy. I very often think that, my talent is okay, but there's a lot of people who have the same talent, just not the same opportunity.
Wow. Wow. That
So,
makes a lot of sense.
so therefore, I'm trying to be more modest when it
Mm.
comes to things. At Sberbank, I think we did a fantastic job, but I can tell you, without the employees, no chance. Without my boss, no chance, because she hired us. She trusted us. Without Mr. Gref, no chance, because he had this vision. But I would also say, also without us, Mr. Gref would have had no chance in this
Yeah.
HR field. It's a little bit like, I don't want to say the stars were in the right order, but
Mm.
we were there at the right time, and it worked out well.
Mm.
And
Makes
we did it professional. The job we were doing and the job I did in the past, we always did it very professional.
Mm.
By the latest, I would say, project management technologies or tools, we were trying to approach it very professional. And this is, I think, something what makes me happy. Even if we fail, but if I can say, okay, we tried not to, because whatever we can, there was no blind spot potentially. There was. We were trying to remove it. Yeah.
Wow, makes a lot of sense. So you have had a lot of experience, for example, in management positions, because if we look at your biography, you have you have worked with a lot of entities, organizations, and people. Because if I'm not mistaken, I've also traveled in different places, stayed in different places. How has the different cultures affected your perception and understanding of people, and how is that important according to your perception?
I think that's the most important thing, because, I would tell you always what I told my friends when they're asking me, oh, you live in Russia. I said, yes, I live in Russia because it's paid learning. They're paying me to learn about myself. Because, it's technically to be means to live in transactions, right? I act in a way, and this is causing a reaction. I not always have full control about my reaction, but I can manage and steer the communication and the interaction with other people. I can do this, right? Everyone can do this. And I think, living in different cultures, and I'm for sure not a multipolarist, but I understand this idea of multipolarism is technically, you learn about different types of truths in specific contexts. And this helped me a lot. I love to live in America. I love to live in Russia, to live in Belarus. I love travel. I've been to Iran many times, right? I've been to countries in Africa many times. I've been to Tajikistan, to Kyrgyzstan, to Uzbekistan. That was simply great, yeah, because you could see a perspective of people toward life, towards technology, towards social, which I have not had, and that made me also question a lot of things. How I was brought up, because the way on how we are being brought up, we define it as a standard, as a default, but it's not. Not. And we can always say that specific rings are right or wrong, but they are mainly culturally right. And if you boil it down, at one point, I'm Roman Catholic, right? But obviously, if you think about Persia, Iran, they have a dualistic religion, that Zoroastrians, that is like 4,000 years old. And obviously, some things may not, align with the Catholic religion.
Yeah.
Am I right? Are they wrong? It's just different potentially. And we need to define what is this minimum of understanding which we need to have in order to live peacefully, I think, but also how we can develop. Because obviously we have climate change issues. We have a lot of issues in the world with the rainforests in Brazil, but also in Malaysia. We have of animals which are technically disappearing from this planet, and they are maintaining a specific ecosystem, right? We have a debt problem in the world, right? We have a colonialistic problem in Africa, obviously. Right? So we should be aware of these things, and we should, I think, potentially rethink how we as mankind want to live together, as difficult as it is.
Wow. Makes a lot of sense. And according to your own understanding, for example, the diverse changes that are taking place, there is always this fear. One fear from all the cultures is the issue of AI taking place in terms of jobs, people losing their jobs, and so on and so forth. So according to your own reference point with your experience, what's your say or your comment on the impact of AI with reference to jobs and culture?
That's a good question, right? So, I mean, obviously, we have the situation that there are some countries simply also intellectually stronger developed than others because simply the educational system is longer in place. And then we have the situation as smaller community-based countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, also Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, they have a higher education than larger countries have.
Yeah.
You know, obviously some things may be automized in the future, 100%, whether it's autonomous driving or flying to the moon, whatever, this doesn't matter at this point. But some things will be not automatized. For example, to install a kitchen at your home, you will need a carpenter to do this. Yeah? Put tiles on the wall in your bathroom. You need to have a human doing this. I think, and also like to care about all people, to give them care. Yeah. To bring up children. So I think we need to have a different understanding of these. So I don't know how you call them or how you categorize them, but these, I would say that there are these societal relevant roles and jobs. A policeman also has this, by the way. Yeah. Government servant has it technically. We need to make them right. And I'm far away to be a communist or something, but I think we need to rethink. In Germany, we had this concept of so-called social market economy.
Yeah,
it was a concept of the Christian Democratic Party in the 60s and 70s. I think that is a good point. On the one hand, we need to develop systems which are embracing entrepreneurship and supporting people who are taking risks, so meaning businessmen. But on the other hand, we also need to make sure that we keep, I would say, the state lean and better transfer the money to relevant jobs for the society. Because, Germany, everyone thinks it's a quite social country, which I think it is. But the average income is something between 30 and 35,000 US dollars per month. It's not so per year. It is not so much. It's not so much. But the good thing in Germany is that education is for free and a quite decent amount of healthcare is for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So is Germany an ideal country? By far not. We are also making mistakes as every country. But I would say, we will still maintain a quite decent standard of living. And what I mean for an individual is that obviously, you need to try to develop and be as good as possible in whatever you're doing. Whether you are giving care to an old person, whether you're computer specialists or manager, because the world is changing. The younger generation is coming, of course, right?
Yeah.
Getting all older. So it is for sure a little bit more competitive, but I think the main important point is that you need to try to do the best for yourself, and not forgetting, of course, the others and your surrounding. Yeah.
Okay, so there is one important word you have used when you talk of the society has put in a box some careers to be relevant than others. And this moves with in different cultures per se. Maybe if a student has been performing so well before going to university, they'll be taught to maybe do a medical course or something that seems to be lucrative according to society, but maybe in as much as it may not even be relevant in the next 3 years. So how do you what do you think would be the way forward to kind of reduce such kind of scenarios in our society?
You mean to remove scenarios which are boxing specific roles?
Yes.
It's the job of the politicians, no? Because obviously, if you think about, we are living in capitalistic systems, so meaning we are growth oriented. That is what you can hear all day, right? But I think politicians need to put a counterweight. Politicians are servants of the people, and they are servants of the society. And I think it should be a dualistic approach, right? The businesses, is trying to maximize the efforts and technically also to reduce how do you say that, the interception of the state. But also the state needs to promote specific values which are relevant for society. And not so sure whether this is happening in Europe at the moment. Yeah. Because I think what you could have seen in America is that the social question the social question, which was technically being created by bringing all the production sites to China, right? By outsourcing the production, that was unsolved. You know, there are still people in Georgia, Utah not so much, but in Georgia, Ohio, etc. There are so many people living who lost their jobs, and potentially also now the ones who are frustrated. And I can understand that. And you know, in Germany, we have a similar situation. We have East Germany, which was obviously before a Soviet. And when we got reunited, you know, a lot of the companies have been inefficient. So meaning they were purchased by Western companies. Then they have taken all the assets and put it back, left them there. People got unemployed. A lot of people left the regions. And now when you look on our elections here in Germany, a lot of the people there are voting for the right-wing party. But I truly believe it is not because they like the ideas of a right-wing party. It's more because of their, you know, they feel not heard, and it's the feeling of being helpless. And I think that's also what you could see in America and other places like Argentina, like Brazil, also I think like South Africa. Yeah. And we need to understand that this social question needs to be solved. Everyone has the right to have a decent living.
Exactly.
How it is. It is how it is. And there are discussions in Switzerland, Germany, also in the Nordics, that you pay to everyone a bare minimum, so that you don't have this social welfare, but that you say everyone gets 500 euros, 1,000 euros, 1,500 euros. I think that makes sense, to be honest. I tell you why. Because with it, you could put all the people which are working in the government to assess whether someone is eligible for social welfare. You don't need them. No, you would also create more unemployed people there. Yeah, it's understandable, but they are technically representatives of a state operating in an older fashioned system. But I think it makes sense to pay everyone a bare amount, whether he has money or not money, personally.
But don't you think that will create more unemployed people?
I mean, whatever that means, right? Whatever unemployed means in this case, I think we should think more in a way that unemployed people have the disability or are very often lacking the idea of purpose.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is, on the one hand, you need to roof, you need to eat, but you also need a purpose in life. And I would agree with you. I think they would be unemployed on paper, yes, but they could afford living. But
yes,
it's this purpose. Are they still happy, or are they not happy? Because the job, in order to do, I mean, if you accomplish something, that makes you feel better. So if people have money, they need a purpose in life, whether they have money, whether you have no money. I think the bigger problem is the purpose. And the state is not able to create this purpose. And I'm talking about Germany, right? I think the people here, we are somehow having this expectation that the state needs to give us kind of purpose and happiness, but I don't believe so. I think we need to, but everyone is a bit different, right? So who am I, right? So but I think it's challenging. I mean, from a meta perspective, if you look on this, it's of course easy, right? You could say that, you know, people having more money to live and blah, and less expenses on the one hand. Well, that makes sense. But on the other hand, people may not be happy with the state as well. That is true.
Exactly.
It's an educational thing, I think, at the end.
So now someone out there might be curious. They would want to learn from you. How did you end up finding yourself in the place where you are now? Because you have put in a lot of work. In this case, we'll use the word purpose. How did you find your purpose? How did you reach and say, this is my purpose?
That is a difficult question again. Donovan is torturing me today with difficult questions. You know, I don't know whether I have this super big vision for myself, right? But I think my purpose is very much an external one. It's my daughter. It may sound a bit cheesy, right? And I'm divorced. My daughter is not living constantly with me, but I see her every second weekend, right? But I would say she's disciplining me a lot in order to, you know, to prepare her for life.
Wow.
That disciplines me. You know what I mean? That makes me think more about things, right? And then also, of course, the relationship to my girlfriend or to my fiancé helps me to to understand that it's not just about me, it's about
Mm,
us, the community. So
mm,
this idea of a community, that I can make a difference in my community, that is very nurturing me.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
This is something where I think I don't have the ambition to become an oligarch or billionaire. Because for me, I think, if it happens, I'm not against that, but this is not the main driving force for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the main driving force, I would say, and this is to be revisited, is to be in this network where I operate a
Mm-hmm.
valuable part.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Ex-
I believe it's a little bit more like Korean or Eastern philosophy, where they're saying, don't think about the money. If you're acting well, then the fortune will come.
Exactly. Mm.
That is more what I think at, I can make the change, and whatever I do, I try to do it in a very professional way. So
Mm.
that when I operate at Sberbank, at SAP, wherever I worked, I try to, I need to know processes, I need to know the culture, I need to know the communications
Mm.
style, and I integrate myself, and based on this style, I make the change.
Wow.
And that was always quite successful. I think that is something, I'm not a big fan of saying talented, but I think this is something where I for sure have a specific idea how I can make people move if they are
Mm.
working in structure.
Mm. Makes a lot of sense. So, talking about understanding culture and considering other people, what would be your advice for someone to bring people together? Because not everyone is good to bringing people together whereby they can work in one group.
No, you need to share. You need to have severe and serious interest in someone else.
Mm.
Yeah, whether it's the CEO or whether it's the conductor who's taking the tickets.
Yeah.
You need to be interested in someone, and I think people get a feeling whether you're just faking it or
Mm-hmm.
whether you don't fake
Yeah.
it. Right? And they're calling it empathy nowadays, right? But with this empathy word, it's put a little bit inflationarily used. But I
Mm.
think more like you need to be curious and interested in this. And
Mm.
and how do you become this? You need to listen to people. It's very
Exactly.
simple. And you need to, and not just listen that, You need to more trying to process, and listen what someone says, and then trying to see because there's always something interesting in everything, not? Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
that is,
Mm.
I think, a good personality trait to have.
Mm. It's really really educative. I've learned a lot of things,
I
and
hope.
according from what you have, how you have explained, you are someone who has at least a vast understanding of different topics and different areas, because you have been able to connect the dots in different angles and explaining them in simple words.
I hope, that it's called, they're saying system thinking or Kubernetics or something, but forget about these words. Technically, it's just, in innovation, you call it zoom in, zoom out. You need to have the ability to zoom in and zoom out. But in order to do this, you need to have context, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to understand complexity.
Mm.
Um, I worked in many spheres. I worked in banking, HR. I
Mm-hmm.
worked in software development and organization, SAP. I worked for a metallurgic company. I worked for electricity nuclear company.
Mm.
And I worked never on sales. I always worked in this aspect of, product development.
Wow.
And very often I was, the youngest person in the team,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes also well paid, but, I always needed to bring a lot of effort to myself, discipline to myself, and effort in order to show to the others it's worth for them to spend time with me.
Mm.
So usually I'm not the guy who's walking in a suit and, and everyone thinks, oh, he's the boss. Usually I build up my reputation, and I have no problem with that. I don't find myself too special. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
you're way more special than me, because for you, you coming to Moscow, it's a way longer way than for me. Honestly, I mean, culturally, emotionally, 100%, 100%.
Mm.
Therefore, um, you need to be the pupil, right? Or the student. You need to be the student from time to time, and you need to like this role. That is always helpful.
Wow. No, I've honestly, personally, I've learned a lot from you, especially the aspect of someone being humble despite what they are bringing to the table. And at the end of the day, it's the results that speak for you.
I mean, I think so, right? I don't need a sign over my head or a title, you know, what for?
Yeah.
Paper, right? So, no, I come
Those people don't even want to be called these big names.
Yeah, I mean, you can say I'm ex-Google, ex-BCG, ex-SAP, ex-Sberbank, no, whatever, right? So if you need it, you need to play it. If you don't need it, I'm Oliver, right? So, and for my daughter doesn't care whether I work for Google, SAP, Sberbank, or for the Russian government, or for the German government. You know, my daughter does not care about this.
Yeah.
My best friend also doesn't care about it.
Wow. No, it has really been a very great conversation.
Likewise.
I've really enjoyed it. I just don't know if you have any words that you would like us to go away with, something that you just want to share with us.
I think it's important, you know, to find your own way, and you should understand that this way is not coming like you don't wake up and you know what it is, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's a constant struggle with yourself, and you need this struggle. It's a dialogue with yourself, you know, because what do you want from life, you know? Sometimes we want monetary things, sometimes we want sexual things. It's all okay, but you need to understand it's a constant struggle, and it is okay that you are not consistent. A product, a brand needs to be consistent, but not we as a human. We are not a product.
Wow.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I've really had an awesome time, and I'm curious to also hear the comments of many other people to learn from you. I just don't know how can someone be able to reach out to you, learn from you, maybe any books if you have published any, or your LinkedIn and so on and so forth.
I'm more than happy to share LinkedIn, and I have an Instagram profile. It's closed, but you can connect with me. I usually accept because no one will find me anyhow. LinkedIn is fine. I can share my email address. I'm quite happy with this. Okay. So no worries about it. If I can be of help for anyone, I'm more than happy to.
Of course, you would be of many help to many people, I'm sure.
Thank you.